Or do we, but in a different way? I can think of nothing. We mostly all wear and dress the same. Hygiene and skincare products are just toothpaste, deodorant, maybe a simple skin cream, and if you are really going for it, hair gel or wax. But those are not trends like the two I mentioned above for women. I do not know. Do you have some ideas or reasons behind this? Story 1. Large pickup trucks are a huge fashion trend among a lot of men, particularly rural conservative men. Guess, don't bother lying and pretending that they are for utility and not fashion. They are for fashion. Story 2. Bro, men are humans. We have it in spades. Pick literally any hobby. Guns, games, cars, trucks, Warhammer minis, collectible figures, Legos, Pokemon, just to name a few. Sure, there are a few women in every space I mentioned, but there are no doubt a few men who love Stanley Cups and pumpkin spice. Story 3. The marketing to women and children of what I call the consumable container market of water bottles and cups is mind-boggling. In 2016, Yeti was the it thing. By 2018, the Hydro Flask was a status symbol in college. In 2023 to 2024, it's Stanley mugs. And they're all reusable. They buy something new and reuse the new thing. Story 4. Men definitely do this, we're just not as heavily on social media, so it's not as in your face as it is with women. I'll point to the bourbon boom, the cryptocurrency bubble, the resurgence of Pokemon cards and comic books. Every new job site tool Milwaukee cranks out, like heated coats and personal fans, RGB lights for gaming PCs and setups, novelty truck accessories, insulated coolers, firearms, camouflage gear, novelty underwear. Story 5. We have them. They just tend to be specific to certain hobbies and interests. For example, Walmart cannot keep a specific model of Ozark Trail pocket knife in stock right now because it is a trend or meme. It is a regular $10 knife, but because it went viral, it is out of stock everywhere. Story 6. Giant pickup trucks, Carhartt, boats and campers. Except for Carhartt, I have never met a single woman who bought any of those things. Sometimes the horse girls have a hand-me-down truck, but even the ones with serious money don't spend it there. Story 7. Bro, I've been into Lord Stanley's Cup since I could lace up skates. But it's not something you can buy. You must work relentlessly to have your name etched on the greatest trophy in sports. Story 8. I think women are just slightly more likely to buy things just to have, whereas men tend to be slightly more likely to buy things from a more utilitarian perspective. Less trend-oriented spending, but still plenty of extraneous spending regardless. For example, men probably aren't going to buy a new coffee cup just because they saw it on TikTok, but I know a lot of men that have a garage full of tools they bought to use exactly once. Story 9. Supplements, sneakers, tools, gadgets, cars. There are a lot of marketing campaigns aimed at men. Maybe not quite as brand-specific, but plenty of companies are marketing to men. Story 10. I am a dice goblin. I play tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, and others, and I love buying dice. New trends in dice mean more dice. Metal dice, liquid core dice, and more. Story 11. Go to Reddit Tools and Reddit Harbor Freight and you'll see trends just like the Stanley Cup. The most recent one is the mini toolboxes in the Harbor Freight subreddit. They're going nuts for them. Story 12. There's a lot of gear collecting in the guns community which is predominantly but not exclusively men. There are trends like the gas pedal, matching aluminum anodized parts on ARs, pistol red dots, G10 milled pistol handle scales, and more. There's loads of high-end gear for ARs and Glocks. Then there's the AK enthusiasts who will say rifle is fine and run it plain. There's also gun-related merchandise like YouTube merchandise and Black Rifle Coffee Company. And of course, the rich folks having night observation devices and body armor. Story 13. Not a man, but I work in fashion, so I see trend reports for lots of retail items. Men's trends tend to be more about the style of items rather than new items as individual pieces. For example, in men's fashion, a trend right now is boots for all activities. All kinds of boots are trending, not just a specific style, and it is trendy to wear boots for everyday activities and more formal events. If boots were trending in women's fashion, it would typically focus more on a specific type of boot rather than an overall trend of boots. Story 14. I don't tend to buy, but I am guilty of letting influencers get to me. However, that usually leads to me buying electronic waste-type computers and projects that never quite take off. Story 15. Everyday carry. Prepping. Any gear-intensive sport or activity like fishing, hunting, climbing, camping, sailing, etc. Cars, watches, guns. In some places, men do loads of shopping too. We just usually need it to be marketed differently to us. Story 16. Because trends are nonsense. I have two hobbies: racing motorcycles and guns and hunting. There are all sorts of trends in both of these categories, but who cares? I buy what I like. Story 17. Men buy toys, gadgets, and things they can play with. This is often seen with vehicles, technology, video games, and actual toys. Of course, things like male fashion exist, and there are subsets of the male population that are really into them. But for the most part, men like things that do actions. It's not unfair to say most things men buy have intended, usually instant purposes behind them, while women tend to shop more casually or sporadically. These are averages, not to say every man and every woman is like this. Story 18. Not necessarily for me, but YETI. I know a bunch of guys who had all the different color and size koozies on top of cups and coolers. One of my good friends has 5 different coolers in different colors and sizes and probably around 30 total cups and koozies. I think we added it up and he spent around $4,000 to $5,000. Story 19. Most of us have a brain and at least buy stuff that can bring more joy, and they aren't a cup. We can learn to find the pirated version of what we want, like video games. Can be handmade, such as costumes. But yeah, definitely not a cup. We have cooler stuff, or we end up broke because we usually put all the money into the few people in the family still there for us. But story 20. It is harder to market to men. Women are far more likely to purchase things because a celebrity said so or someone convinced them it will make them feel better. I am not quite sure why though. Story 21. I'm sure there are examples where we do, but in my humble opinion, in general, men are less susceptible to peer pressure and less materialistic than women. We're also less targeted by advertising because we tend to spend less. Story 22. Men have trends. It's just not those Stanley Cups and Pumpkin Spice Lattes. That's mostly women. Like Basic Becky versus Basic Chad investing strategies, men and women tend to shop at different places. Even in those strategies, women tend to buy more than men. Story 23. Chunko Pops, protein powder without lifting, designer tennis shoes, trucks, shot glasses with bullets in the glass, and remember flannels on top of sweatshirts? You are not immune to propaganda. Story 24. We have it too. It's because stuff is advertised as rugged or dependable or whatever to appeal to our sense of masculinity. And it's so effective that we have blind spots and don't realize we're being suckered into buying some overpriced tactical flashlight or a Bluetooth speaker that looks like an ammo can or an aggressively tan backpack with fake mall webbing or a $200 cooler or any other random nonsense that we don't need. I think men's trends simply last longer, so we don't notice things going in and out of style as much. Story 25. Mate, I think it's a good thing the advertisement industry has left us in the dark. I've seen so many people collecting those ugly Starbucks cups and those water bottles, and as an environmentally conscious guy, it drives me nuts. Also, my wallet doesn't have room for more buying. 70% of my net income goes straight to buying a house, and until I find the right one, I'll be lowering how much I need to pay. Story 26. Why don't we men have buying trends like the Stanley Cup and the Pumpkin Spice Latte? Women make up 80% of all buying, at least in the United States. They also make up 75% of all debt. But that's a discussion no one's ready to have, apparently. Because of that, most trends are focused on females. Businesses know that they will be more irresponsible with their money in general. Or do we? But in a different way? No, I don't know. Do you have some ideas or reasons behind this? See my previous comments. Since businesses know males don't spend money like that, they don't aim trends towards us. On the rare occasion that they do, it's at the very young of us. I'm sure this is the point where people, probably women, will point out things like pornography, sneakers, and video games. Nope, not the same. Also, speaking in generalities, most guys don't buy those things, and when they do, it's not because it's a trend. Story 27. Because most men only buy things we need or things we want for our hobbies and are utilitarians, not trend followers. We make fewer, but more expensive hardware purchases. Story 28. Every guy follows their hobbies and the trends within that hobby. Most guys do not make fashion items their hobby, as we do not have a social hierarchy based on trends in fashion. However, most do enjoy seasonal sweets, pastries, foods, and drinks at times. Story 29. Marketing works better on women. Myers-Levy, J., and Maheshwaran, D. 1991. Exploring differences in males and females' processing strategies. Journal of Consumer Research. This study discusses gender-based differences in processing advertising content, showing that women are more responsive to emotional and empathetic appeals in marketing. Fisher E. and Arnold S. J. 1990. More Than a Labor of Love. Gender Roles and Christmas Gift Shopping. Journal of Consumer Research. This research explores how women approach shopping as a relational and social activity, which makes social proof marketing, like testimonials or influencer endorsements, more impactful. Putrevu, S. 2001. Exploring the origins and information processing differences between men and women. Implications for advertisers. Academy of Marketing Science Review. This study delves into how men and women process advertising differently, highlighting that women prefer detailed and relational messaging, which can guide more effective marketing strategies. This is either because marketers have had more time and devoted more effort into learning to manipulate women. B. Women are naturally more gullible and susceptible to manipulation by marketers. C. Some degree of both. Story 30. I think women are generally more susceptible to or embracing of trends as they have more of a tendency to feel compelled to conform in social situations. This isn't a universal rule, but much has been studied and written about this. I'm always baffled by female fashion trends. Like right now, baggy jeans are apparently in for women. But I look at them and think, my wife is dressing like I did when I was a 12-year-old skater punk. Why would anyone dress like that now? And I'm sure she'll refuse to wear those jeans next year as they'll be out of fashion. She asks what I think of the jeans, and I don't know what to say, as I think they aren't flattering and just look goofy. And if I dare criticize her new trendy clothing item, she immediately says, but this is what's in fashion right now. As for me and most of my guy friends, we just wear the same stuff every year and seem to make a point of avoiding fads, as you usually end up looking awkward or insecure. Fashion trends are one of the many reasons I'm thankful I'm not a woman, as I would hate trying to always be on trend. It looks expensive and exhausting. Story 31. Some dude came up to me at a Goodwill bin offering cash for a Carhartt I found. I didn't even buy it yet. I would say yes. Fun fact, men have testosterone mood swings too. Story 32. We just live our own lives. We buy similar things to the people around us since we talk about it and get something better or try things out. I highly doubt we are all similar in everything you mentioned. The West Coast, Midwest, East Coast, and down south will have a lot of differences, even within their own regions. Story 33. All the hunters I work with went from Sitka to First Light and Benchmark to something more boutique. I'm sure some other brand will come along charging $180 for a camo sweatshirt, and that will be the new thing. A lot of brands sell off when they get popular, and then there's usually a dive in quality. So, people look for something that holds up to the old standard. Story 34. There is, but it tends to be more niche and hobby-specific. Sneakers, guns, games and gaming systems, Legos, figurines, tools, trucks, workwear, gadgets, etc. Alcohol, smoking, and vaping enthusiasts too. Story 35. It's a pretty interesting phenomenon. Apparently, women make most consumer choices by a decent margin. This is then reflected in advertising campaigns, which I think is then reflected in the shift in media to try to pander more to women. This is then reflected in who gets voted to be the President of the United States. Story 36. Men who buy tools, whether power or hand tools, tend to buy all the tools. Why have one drill when I can have three? Or have a table saw, miter saw, and circular saw? I personally have 3 different axes, a splitting maul, a regular 4-pound axe, and a 4-pound axe with a trencher on the back. Story 37. I have no idea, and I don't know if this is true anyway, but I love how this entire thread is subtly, but unmistakably very American. Not in a political way or anything, just so many things that are entirely unrelatable for my European self. Story 38. I actually got a pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks the other day. After the second sip, I spat that out and threw it out. How people drink this liquid super diabetes overpriced bomb is beyond me. Story 39. I don't think there's anything as widespread as those. Maybe women have an easier time finding common ground, while men, on the other hand, are more dispersed. I'm sure there are plenty of shoe trends, tool trends, video game trends, car trends, and so on, but they all stay contained within their audience. The closest widespread buying trend I can think of was back when people really cared about shoes, and there would be pairs of shoes that people of all demographics and interests were wearing. I remember so many guys wearing Nomadics and Ultra Boosts. And before my time, you had basketball shoes like Air Jordans, which were universally loved back in the day. Story 40. Bro, we have so many sports events. Opening night for baseball, gotta buy the new hat. Super Bowl for football, gotta buy the new jersey. The playoffs for basketball, gotta buy the new championship shirts. All of the all-star games and events, slam dunk contest, three-point contest, home run derby. Then we have the World Cup every 4 years. So much spending done during this time. On top of that, there's the shooting, hunting, outdoor trade show for gun owners, various game releases throughout the year for gamers, Jordan release dates for sneaker enthusiasts, plus many more things I'm not even aware of. If anything, guys have way more and expensive buying trends.